hidden cost of white supremacy, what it's costing you. This is a video essay from this week's blog on Unracist Yourself. I've been black in America my whole life, but I've had a different experience from many. Even though I grew up in mostly white spaces in my formative years, it didn't really lead me to negatively associate blackness with anything lesser like you might think. I can't say it was the white spaces that helped me appreciate my blackness, but luckily for me, they didn't particularly harm me either. It might have been the magic of growing up in Marin County, California in the 70s. It might have been my fierce and wonderful parents, who I give all credit to. It might have been the wonderful teachers and friends that I had. It might have been the California Sun, the Children's Center, my school, or happenstance. Who knows? I feel fortunate, though. My parents raised me to understand my worth, not just as a person, but as a black person and as a woman. They encouraged me to think beyond what others believed about race. And I was told about racism, but I rejected it in my early years. I said, why would anyone not love me? I did not believe it. And people tried to impose racist notions on me with warning words like, you have to work twice as hard to get half as much as a black person in America. But it didn't resonate with me. I thought, maybe you do, but I don't. And largely I haven't. Thanks to the identity I formed about being black as a child, that was positive. I could compete against other students. I was in the gifted classes. I played on the playgrounds, rode my bike around town, hiked the mountains, splashed through the creeks just like everyone else. Yet my observation of racist notions, both external and internal, like having to work harder, began to show me the depth of the issue as I grew up. We see resilience in blackness. Even after 400 years of brutal oppression, violence, murder, slavery, incarceration, and abuse, black people somehow continue to exude joy, creativity, and life. And I have to say, this isn't just survival, it's thriving. Our joy, openness, hope, and excellence as a community are constantly emulated, stolen, or admired by the very cultures that seek to diminish us. But through it all, we remain connected to our humanity. I think that's the most important point. Even in the face of despair, pain, and things like substance abuse, there's a light in the life of blackness that is undeniable. You see it in our faces, in our art, and in our communities. Despite everything, our humanity somehow remains intact. This is useful context about me and about black people in general, but we're here to talk about white people. I've seen something in white America that most people don't talk about. I've been up close with white friends, teachers, mentors, communities, public and private spaces, even lovers, long enough to see below the surface veneer of whiteness. Interestingly, my conclusions likely surprise and maybe annoy some. What I've seen is that white supremacy and racism hurt everyone, not just black people or people of color who are the quote-unquote victims of it. We certainly are. I'm not denying that. But what I see in white America, but when I look at white America, I see something different. It's not that I don't have love for my white friends, mentors, or even family members who have been kind, generous, and loving to me. But the truth is, underneath the veneer of whiteness, money, power, and supposed superiority, there is a deep fear. A fear of inadequacy, of losing control, and of retaliation for past and present actions. And, to a big degree, rightly so. There's a void I see in many white people, a hollow space that no amount of money or power can fill. I've seen this in white households, families where coldness, formality, violence, and control overshadow real connection. And masking and hiding all that under a veneer of niceness or goodness doesn't negate the presence of those things. Even wealth doesn't protect them from dysfunction. While growing up where I didn't see a lot of poverty in white communities. I saw plenty of middle class whites who struggled just as much emotionally, despite their supposed advantages. The emotional costs of white supremacy. This is what white supremacy has done. It hasn't just oppressed people of color, it has hollowed out white people too. The fear, the control, the tightness in their faces, it's all there. And I see it. Now, Elon Musk is one of my least favorite people on earth. And I say, don't look at Elon Musk in the eyes, but have you seen his face? It's a mask. And there's a lot of stuff underneath there that is hiding that void that I mentioned earlier. White people are often cut off from their own humanity by the very system they built to dominate others. And it's not just about guilt. It's about it's about the spiritual and emotional void that comes from living a life built on fear, greed, fantasy of superiority, and the suppression of others. If there wasn't a void, why would so much violence, systemic suppression, say that 50 times fast, systemic suppression, and control be necessary to maintain power? Why would so many people vote against their own interests just to keep the veneer of white supremacy intact? Lyndon Johnson famously said, if you can convince the lowest white man that he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pocket. And if that's not what's happening today in our society, I don't know what else we could explain it as. But the seduction of white supremacy is very, very strong. And this is the lie of white supremacy. It gives people the illusion of superiority while robbing them of their own humanity. What's missing inside that makes this necessary? Why do white people as a whole go to such lengths to secure power that doesn't ultimately fulfill them? This is where I teach from, not just from the perspective of what racism does to black people and other people of color, but from what I've observed, it does to white people too, to all of us. White supremacy hurts everyone. I'll say it again. White supremacy hurts everyone. In conclusion, we all need to reconnect to our humanity. Black people have held onto theirs despite centuries of oppression. White people, on the other hand, have built walls around theirs to maintain their power. If we're going to dismantle white supremacy and racism, we need to address this reality. We need to recognize that this system harms all of us and that reclaiming our humanity for each of us is really the only way forward.